Morning. Welcome,
Morena.
everybody. Yeah, welcome to No Longer Bottled podcast. I'm your host, Natasha Murutaka, and I'm with an amazing friend, Alexandra Brown. Did I say it right? No.
You did. That's my middle name. My actual name's Tony, but Alexandra's my middle name.
Yeah, so just letting you know, I only know her as Tony, but I was like, shall I put? Anyway, so before we start, like to just go over the disclaimer. The disclaimers to protect myself and you as the guest on the show. So the disclaimers, just to let people know, this is just for information purposes only. It's not to help or provide any psychological or any type of I'm still waking up, I think. Any type of my mind's gone blank. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to pause this. This is how it's going to roll, okay? So we don't provide any type of medical services, only information to help others go to the right places that will help them. Use your discernment when it comes to this type of thing, because it's always up to the viewers and the watchers and the listeners' discretion. If anything gets a bit too much for the viewer, please hop off or get the help that we might have on here. Ring someone, have a talk with them, uh, and just regulate your emotions and where you're at. So, like I said, let's get ready to roll. Powered by Whoop Whoop, let's go. A registered business. Anyway, that's out of the loop. I hate doing disclaimers. Usually I have something covered, but I didn't know we were going to start so early, and I'm so glad we did. All about being organic, all about being authentic to ourselves and just having a go. So once again, I like to introduce Tony. I like saying Tony, sorry, my bad. And she's a good friend who I met from Juice Plus. Whoop whoop, let's go. And I just went a different direction. Beautiful company, beautiful place. But the main reason we're on here is to hear your story. This time I'm just going to be listening and allowing the listeners to hear and and so they can get some information or anything. So if you'd like to start the ball rolling, let's go.
Kia ora, hello. My name is Tony. I have a beautiful blended family of four daughters with my partner, and we reside in Te Tai Tokerau, which is Northland, New Zealand. I firstly just wanted to thank my mate here, Natasha, for even inviting me to do this. She's already well into her podcast journey and mahi around writing books and things like that. And I'm kind of in the early stages of mine. I just realized that I just love to learn people's stories, and I feel like giving them a platform to share those stories is really important. And I was like, geez, how am I going to do this? Like, I'm amateur, like, I don't have any experience. It's really easy to look at other people that are doing it and compare. But at the end of the day, like, as you've mentioned, our story is our own, and that's really our superpower because no one else can tell it. So I guess for me, doing a podcast wasn't just about sharing my story, but branching into other topics and giving other people a platform to share theirs as well. So that's kind of where that's at. What is my story? I have a few stories, but the one that I'm really been speaking into is my adoption story. So I've only done 3 episodes. I'm trying to get to 5, so then I can start sharing it. But there's other topics that I'm really passionate about, and I'd love to actually, interview people the same as what you're doing. So it's kind of exciting, but you need to walk before you run, sort of thing. But to give you a little bit of a perspective, I was adopted at the age of 2.5 by a single mum. She wasn't Māori, so for these who aren't sure, yes, we're New Zealanders. She adopted me singly as a mum that had a short-term marriage but wasn't able to conceive. She miscarried a few times. And her dream was to have a baby and build a house next to the beach. So that's what happened. She raised me in Hokianga, which is maybe an hour or so from where we currently live. Like my partner and I were both raised in Hokianga, and she built a half-round barn next to the beach. But I guess there's so many parts to my story, but I guess to put a bit of perspective, it was an open adoption. Now, people's interpretation of an open adoption is quite different to what I believe mine was. Normally an open adoption means, some letters and maybe photos and visits as agreed upon between the birth parents and the adoptive parents. My story is a little bit different in the sense that my adoptive mother, everyone says this is funny, she dated my granddad, and everyone's like, that's weird. But how she got to know my birth family is she dated my granddad. It didn't work out too well. Fun fact, his name is Tony, and I was named after him. God knows why. But anyway, named after my granddad, Tony, but I got the I, he got the Y. But that didn't work out. That relationship didn't work out, but she became very good friends with all of his brothers and sisters. And then, of course, his daughter is my birth mum. And how do I say this? There's so much, but I'll just give you a bit of a snippet. She became good friends with one of my aunties, and I, at the time, in my 2.5 years of life, was in between foster care, my birth mum, her friends. It was not very stable. And I did get told that there was a foster family that wanted to adopt me, but my auntie wasn't down for that because she knew it could possibly lose that link to my birth family. This particular auntie, I call her the backbone of our family, the matriarch. So she has, there's been a number of children in my family that have been adopted. Most of them have all been adopted into the birth family. I was the only one that was adopted out. There's a reason for that, but she was very careful. I say careful because I think she actually cultivated the relationship between me and my adoptive mum. Like when I look back at it now as an adult, I think that she knew that my adoptive mum wanted to become a mother. She was friends with the family. She knew that connection wouldn't have been broken. So I think she really did cultivate that relationship. But so over the time, I spent time with her and my whānau. There was an event because at the time my birth mum was living in Auckland. So both my mums have actually passed, both my adoptive mums, adoptive and birth mum. But at the time, I might as well mention this as well, mental health was a big factor in my birth mother's life. If I'm being quite honest, very traumatic upbringing. There is mental health in the females in my birth family. I'll start there, but I have to say that most definitely her upbringing really forged her path forward. Like she wasn't able to look after herself properly. I know she loved me. Don't get me wrong, but she just wasn't in that position to really look after me when she couldn't look after herself. And this particular weekend, she was having an episode. So my auntie took my, not quite then yet, my adoptive mum down to Auckland. And I guess they were trying to really look at the situation and say, is she fit to be a mum? Like, is she, in a position to actually do this? And I won't get into nitty-gritty details, but she did have a bit of a breakdown. And by the end of that weekend, my auntie did say to my adoptive mum, well, are you willing to adopt her? So she always says to me, I went down to Auckland, not a mum, and then I came back a mum. So, and the next day she went for custody. At that time, though, in the 80s, you didn't just get, the adoption wasn't final. She was like on a probationary period for 2 years because she also adopted. She goes, I was the wrong colour. She said I was a single mum. Like she said, it wasn't all, sign everything and done and dusted. So, there was a bit of a process there. And she was like, building the house around us. My birth mum didn't make it easy because, my older brother, so I've got 2 half brothers on my birth mum's side. My older brother was adopted within the family by an auntie and uncle. I was adopted out of the family, and I think it was just due to how they saw what happened. Like they're really close to the fire. Do you know what I mean? My auntie and uncle, they're in the family, and my birth mum didn't make it easy, but I think it was just hard for her. I believe whether you lose a child physically, like because they pass, or you lose a child through adoption, I believe there's a grief process, and I think she just dug her heels in. You know what I mean? And she did make things difficult. I'm laughing about it because she's stubborn, but whatever. So my auntie and uncle adopted my older brother, but I was adopted out of the family.
Yeah.
Um, by my adoptive mum. And then our younger brother, his dad was around, so and he's a good man. I look up to him as a father figure. Like he even looked after me when I was little.
Yeah.
But he was around, so he wasn't adopted. He just stayed in the family. Me and my older brother, our dads weren't around. So that's why I say it's more than an open adoption because, she'd come stay at our house up north in Hokianga. We'd go stay with her in Auckland. Like she was Jehovah, so she did send presents, but not on Christmas and birthdays. Like there was letters, there was photos, there was phone calls. It's a lot more than what a traditional open adoption looks like. So when I say I have an open adoption, because people, oh, do you know your birth family? I'm like, yeah, but it's so much more than that. So I'm really, really grateful for that because I have seen people that don't know where they come from and they have that identity crisis. Like mum said to me, I could have easily walked away because my birth mum could be really difficult. She goes, I could have just taken you to the South Island, but she's like, no, I wanted you to grow up within your culture, which is why we went to Hokianga and I was immersed in my culture. I wanted you to know where you came from. And she said, most importantly, Māori families are large. So she wanted to make sure I knew hereditary, in terms of genetics, who I was related to, because we know like big whānau. So I'm just really, really grateful for that because there was never really any confusion about who I was and where I came from. And I've seen other people who didn't have that or who were shocked to find out later that they were adopted. And you watch Find My Family or any of the missing pieces, any of those, and you hurt for people, when they don't know or they find people and the family doesn't want to know them. Every adoption story, no two adoption stories are the same, and that's what I've learned. Like they're just not the same at all. People's experiences are unique to them, and I think that's really important to remember. Because I've met someone that was adopted and, her and her sibling nearly got killed by their mother. So, I mean, obviously the feelings there are going to be very different, and that's tragic, I think that's sad. But again, that's the power of someone's story. Everybody's story is different. I used to think I didn't have one. I don't know why I thought that. I think I used to look at people that had these huge, powerful stories and I'm like, that's awesome, but I don't have that. But it's not about how powerful your story is. It comes down to the power. It becomes powerful because it's yours. And I think that's really all that matters. And it's not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. And I think it's just about putting it out there for people who it may resonate with, who may learn lessons. Like I learn lessons from people, even if their story has nothing to do with me. But I think the power of listening to someone and learning those lessons is really, really important. So that's kind of like a snapshot of my story, and I just thought I would give you a little bit of a background as to what that looks like and the open adoption and things like that. So I kind of just waffled.
No, that's amazing. I'm love hearing that story. Like myself, I was fostered. So, like I mentioned to you before, so I kind of resonate in some way in adoption and stuff. So yeah, I understand that. Anyway, as we continue the story, because stories are amazing, and your story is powerful because it's something that you identify or you've been through and you've overcome, actually enjoyed by the sound of it, the good aspects of your life, how your mother now in Hokianga and growing up in your culture. So where am I getting it? What are some, like if someone's wanting to be whāngai or adoptions or that, do you know any procedures on how they could go about and feeling comfortable in that type of area or?
I feel like the adoption process has probably changed greatly since when I was adopted. Like briefly looked at comments about people trying to adopt. I believe it's harder now than it was. And I also feel like nowadays, for the most part, how do I say this? So take Oranga Tamariki, for example. Their goal is to try,
Yeah.
to eventually place that child back into their natural family. And I feel like there's more structures and supports around doing that. Is there though? I feel
Yeah.
like in terms of like a system sense, maybe there's more services and things like that. I don't really ever feel that there's ever been a lack of whānau. Like I feel like in terms of Māori values, and I'm not being racist here, I'm just speaking in terms of being Māori,
Yeah.
that somewhere there's going to be whānau to help. But if I'm being quite honest, I don't really know what it looks like to adopt now. I feel like it's harder just from comments that I've seen. I do think that the systems that we have in place now, ideally, is that they're going to want to try to place a child back into their natural family. I see a lot of people looking overseas because it seems to be easier to do that there. But then again, like I was legally adopted. So I think when you're looking in a whāngai sense where you're not legally adopting them, so I think it's the same thing without the paperwork.
Yeah.
But I think there's just some things to be mindful of when you're whāngai or adopt a child. And I'm gonna sort of stand and walk away from the legal sense of things and what the system looks like now because I don't know. But I just know for me personally, I think it's really important to allow the child, if and when they want to find out where they come from, that they're allowed to do that. I have seen some children that have been, I say children, but adoptees that have been made to feel guilty for wanting to search their roots. And I don't think that's okay. I think that whether it's a closed adoption or not, I believe for people that have a closed adoption, it may be harder for them to access those records. Like I've seen a few people that are struggling to find out where they came from because I think that it just depends on what year you were adopted, because I think there's some sealed records. But I think if we're going to talk about modern days, just be really aware, like whether you're the birth parent or the adoptive parent, like 9 times out of 10, I feel like people are going to want to search out where they come from. And I think that's really important. I can speak to my experience in that, and I'm beginning to uncover now, like some of the trauma as an adult, not just what my mum went through, but things like self-limiting beliefs and things that I realized have come from being an adopted child. And I go into that into my podcast a bit. But as an example, I noticed in early adulthood, my adoptive mother became jealous of my relationship with my birth mum. And that really bothered me because I said, why the hell did you cultivate this relationship between us, make it an open adoption, if you then didn't think that I was going to have a relationship with her? That really bothered me. Like there was a bit of jealousy, and I sometimes felt kind of pulled between them. And I think that's really important. Like it's not about the mother. It's about the whole whānau, but at the end of the day, what centers those relationships is that child. And I think you've really got to be really unselfish sometimes because, I wanted a relationship with both of them and I had that, but I did feel the pressure of like there was a bit of jealousy on my mum's part. And then when I was younger, I felt a little bit of emotional blackmail because my birth mum said that she thought she was getting me back, which I actually don't think that's true. But, you sometimes feel quite torn between either your parents' trauma or whatever the misconceptions are that they may have. Another thing you've got to be really careful of, like my adoptive mum used to say things like when she was angry, like, you're just like your mother, or I didn't join you, you joined me, or I invested too much into you. Like things like that, you don't forget that kind of stuff. Like to say that to a child, any child is not okay, but to say it to a child that you chose to adopt, like it's words hurt and those things, stick into your head. I think it's just really important that you remember, like you chose this child. Don't ever make them feel guilty because they want to find out where they come from. Don't ever throw in their face because you know that they're birth parents. Don't throw that stuff into their face. Like those are a few things for me which I think you shouldn't do. And when you choose a child, the importance of biology. I mean, and biology is important, but the fact that you just chose to love a child and provide them with a life. That is just important as blood relations. Do you know what I mean? Like, I
Yes.
consider my mums, both of them, important. They both shaped me to become who I am. I didn't love one more than the other. I just had a different relationship with them. And, people used to say to me, because when I was little, I'd call my mummy Christine. I have no problem sharing her name. But when I got older, I just called her Christine. But then as I became an adult, I just started calling her my other mum. It was just funny. I went through these phases. But when I was a child and they realized I didn't call her mum, they're like, geez, you're mean. And I was like, what do you mean I'm mean? Like,
Yeah.
who are you to tell me what I can and can't call her? Like, yeah, people just have no idea. Or I'd notice another thing is like people would go, when I was a kid, why were you adopted? I had no issue talking about it, but someone would be like, oh, you can't ask her that, like taboo. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just like, it wasn't a big deal to me because I always knew that I was adopted. And the way I knew that, like 2.5, I guess you're old enough to remember things. But to be honest, my memories are no earlier than 4, so I don't remember anything before then. But the reason I know is because my adoptive mum, the day she brought me home, she told me a story every night about a little girl whose mum couldn't look after her anymore. And so she decided to take care of it. Like, she told me the story and she told me it every night. And then I eventually worked out that I was that little girl. So I always knew I was adopted. There was no confusion there.
Yeah.
Whereas I've seen other people like, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get too far into it, but I've seen people that are important to me, or at least one person important to me who didn't know.
Yeah.
And when she found out at a certain age, she was devastated. Like, and we weren't allowed to say, like, even though we all knew. And I'm just like, I'm just so thankful that there were no secrets. Like, I knew,
Yeah.
and I think that's just really important because I think the other thing that happens is when people don't know and they find out, they feel like they are living a lie. They feel like they're not really part of the family. Like, yeah, so I guess that's, to me, if you're considering adopting or whāngai a child, just to remember that they're front and center and that you should never make them feel guilty or bad about anything, whether they want to find out who they are. Don't use their birth parents against them. Like, don't make them feel like they're only there with you because, yeah, do you know what I mean? Just don't make them don't belittle them. Like, I don't think that's okay. And while I think that my adoptive mother said a lot of things out of anger, you don't forget those things.
Yeah.
Mm.
I hear you. Yeah. And I agree with that. And not making your child feel inferior. Memories and words can be very traumatic as we talk about the mental health side of things, and it kind of puts a little rope on us, and it tethers us to that trauma, and you don't want that as you're growing up because you end up having those type of behaviors or patterns as you grow older. So I heard you were doing a podcast. What is this? Can you mention your name, or are you going to wait till later?
I can mention it.
Yeah.
So just before I tell you what it's called, my mum was given a poem by her friend, and we don't know who the author is. But I've looked it up, can't find it. It's called Legacy of an Adopted Child. So that's actually what my podcast is called. Although that's one of the episodes. It's actually called Manaaki Mindset, and I'll explain why. But my first episode is Legacy of an Adopted Child. And Manaaki Mindsets come from the fact with Juice Plus that you mentioned before. Team Manaaki is my team. We're quite stagnant at the moment, but that's the name I came up with, Manaaki, just because I just believe my purpose is to help people, and you think about Manaaki as supporting people. So that in Juice Plus, that was my name. So it made sense to me that to stay along those lines, Manaaki Mindset, because I think it also opens the door for me to speak on other topics too. So I thought if I just called the podcast something around adoption, then it might be a bit of confusion because I want to branch out to other topics like domestic violence, like mindset, things like that. But my first episode is actually called Legacy of an Adopted Child. So yeah, I've done like 3. I want to get at least another 2 under my belt before I start either looking at interviews or, jumping into other topics. I like the thought of writing a book, but I think that will take a bit of time. So I thought I'd do the podcast to start with and see where that might take me.
Well, I can tell you one thing, when it's something from your heart, the words that you want to write to do for your book come quite easily. It's just getting it grammatically correct and the way I talk. Well, yeah.
Mm.
But the whole thing about what I heard about your podcast, and I'm so yay! It's good that you're doing that and keeping it within your own experiences is ideal, and then knowing that you can branch out later is ideal too. As you can see, when I started doing the podcast, you can see there's no structure because you should have structure, but I just like being flamboyant. I like being myself, and being authentic is the best thing to do, and that's what you're doing, authentic to yourself, and that's beautiful. So I was also, like I mentioned before, I was also whāngai, but I didn't know that my nana, who was my mum's mum, was my nana. I thought that was my mum. She was my mum. So I thought my uncles were my siblings. Till later on, as I grew older, like, no, that's your mum. And I went, no, she's like my sister. And I had the privilege to have her over here for 2 years before she passed of cancer. So that was cool. We were close, and then we separated, and then we got close again. Because it's, to me, forgiveness is a big thing. It just releases anything that you have, so that unconditional love is always there. So by the sounds of it, even though there was stuff happening with the mothers, the unconditional love they had for you was always there. It's just that parents have a way to hurt people we love, even though we don't want to. It's just emotions seem to get in the way.
Yeah. There's two lines at the end of the poem Legacy of an Adopted Child where it says, heredity or environment, which are you the product of? Neither, my darling, just two different kinds of love. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's just so accurate.
Oh, definitely. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, no wonder you started your podcast, love.
I've got to
Yeah.
mention that poem. I haven't even said it yet. And the first episode is Legacy of an Adopted Child, but I'll probably get there. I'll get there maybe in the fifth one at the end. When I think about it now, I should have started the first podcast with that. But hey,
No,
it's nothing about perfection. It's just about getting
no.
it done.
And that's the thing. Like, you listen to my podcast, I was cracking up laughing at my own podcast. Why? Because I can. Wherever you start, it's not about being perfectionist. It's about just getting started and learning as you go. And in life, that's what we do. You learn as you go. But some people like to hold on to that trauma. So what have you done to not hold on to trauma, but to try and release, or try and find a way to make it more easier for you?
I think if I'm being quite honest, I think I did hold a little bit of resentment for quite some time. It wasn't just for my adoptive mum, it wasn't just because of adoptive stuff. It was to do with like my kid's dad and like what she thought of him and stuff. In hindsight, now being a mum, I understand it. But yeah, I did hold a little bit of resentment. I, do think that people's words can really be etched into your mind sometimes. And then another thing, I'll mention it, like when my birth mum passed away, and I was aware she had a traumatic upbringing, but I was only told bits and pieces as a child. And as a child, I never questioned it. And then as an adult, when she'd passed away, I had really wished I had asked more questions. I wished I'd gotten to know her story more. And it was at her funeral, like luckily, because it was during COVID when you could have 50 people, we were very lucky, because I feel for those that had to have tangi and funeral and then you couldn't even be there.
I
And it
was
was
one of those.
yeah, it was in Rotorua, and my uncle stood up and, he was crying and talking about, how, they all got beaten, but she got beaten the worst from her great grandparents. And it was at that moment I had this anger sit into me because I knew about it, but it was almost like when she was alive and, she did she did have a very colourful life, like between mental health and abusive relationships. But I feel like she almost wasn't really acknowledged in life. So I got really angry. In my mind, I got really angry. I was like, oh, cool, you want to talk about it now? She's passed away. I held that resentment. And I'll be really honest, I don't remember my great grandfather. He sort of died when I was around 2.5, 3. Never met my great grandmother. But yeah, I had great resentment for what the childhood that they put her through, and my aunties and uncles too, but like the great aunties and uncles, which would be my granddad's siblings, but also what happened with my birth mum and my uncle, her brother. I'm trying to be careful about what I say because I don't know if ever any of my whānau would ever hear this, but it's neither here nor there. But yeah, I did held on to some resentment for quite some time. She passed in 2020, and then I was like kicking myself, like, why didn't I ask questions? Why didn't I sit down with her and ask her story? And I wanted to find out more about it. And I kind of got two different opinions. One was like, well, find out and then move on. And the other one was like, why do you want to even get into it in the first place? And then I thought, I have a right to find out and ask questions if I want to. So I've spoken to different aunties and uncles, like either siblings or great aunties and uncles, briefly about my mum's upbringing. And some of them did say, like, yep, all good, bub. If you've got questions, come talk to us. Or they said, just make sure when you find out what you want to find out, don't hold on to it. Some of them have held on to it for years and took them ages to get over it. And then even speaking to my uncle that now lives in Australia, he was crying. And I'm like, after all of these years that told me what I needed to know, like, it was hard. And I didn't want to ask too many questions. And I thought as a grown adult, he was crying. I thought so it had to have been hard. And there's been other parts of the whānau that have offered, like, when I'm ready to come and talk to them. And I think I was really keen before. Now I'm not so sure, but I've managed to try and let go of the resentment, but it's taken some time. Like, me and my brothers recently went up to the Urupa in Otamatea and on her anniversary of her passing and went to see her. And previous to that, I'd look at my great grandparents' graves and wouldn't think a thing about them because all I thought about was what they did to my mother. Which some people would say to me, like, what are you on about? Like, you weren't even around at that time. Like, you have no right to feel that way. But I don't think anyone has any right to tell me how to feel.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, my mother was the person that she was. And I think it was because of the foundation of her upbringing was traumatic.
Yeah.
And I guess, like my aunties and uncles have said, like, they've had to learn to forgive and move on, and that's fine. But, they say traumas passed down 7 generations. And I think it's, as a child, like, we taught not to question too much, but as an adult, as your own things start to come out, and then, you do, I'm a processor. I can sit on something for a long time. And then sometime later, something pops out and I'm like, oh, I need to find out more about that, or I'll ask questions. Like, I'm also an introvert, so I'm used to being quiet, but quiet doesn't always mean that we're not thinking about stuff. Like, I process things. But to answer your question about how did I release the resentment, it's taken a lot of work. There's probably still a little bit there, but it's taken me talking to people. I've done some energy sessions with Kieran, who you'll know through Juice Plus, trying to release I'm open to that stuff. I never was before until I found the business, because I was like, oh, that's kind of out the gate. But now I'm like about manifesting and doing goals and, trying things. I've worked with Gail a bit too, who used to do Juice Plus, but now she's like kind of a coach, and I'm currently doing a 12-week program with her. But it's like really trying to catch those feelings before, what is it? There's a few things that I've taught. There's a lot of things actually since she's passed up until now, and I feel like that work's going to be ongoing. A lot of inner growth and personal work. I think everything is about energy, and I guess it's hard because sometimes you just you get into those things. In the past, I've sat in a place that's been negative and sat there for too long, and I understand now you just can't do that. Like, I can't change the past. It's been and done. I think you don't always have to forgive, but you can. What is it they say? What is it? Forgive and forget. I think, I don't know if I'm quite forgiven, but I don't think I'll ever forget. I think it's like acknowledging her story it to me is important because I feel like in life she wasn't, and then she was just called crazy. I don't
Yeah.
know, it's weird. Like some people, sometimes you find in your families, like I have a very dysfunctional birth family, but sometimes you find people either sweep things under the rug or there'll be those few people that will come and talk about it. And the interesting part about my adoptive mum is she wasn't part of the family. So people confided in her because they trusted her. And so there's a lot of things that I've learned, not sure if they're appropriate for me to find out, but that was divulged to her.
Yeah.
And I just think people felt comfortable because she wasn't part of the family. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think like the work, I feel like I've carried less resent than I did
Yeah.
when she passed away. I'm still, I know that I've got people I can talk to if I want to, but then I'm also aware of it could be opening a big can of worms. Like, how much do I really want to know? I have an idea, but this particular uncle, like, he and I didn't really, I wouldn't say we were that close, but after the funeral and stuff, like he said, if you ever want to know anything, come and talk to me. I haven't taken advantage of that. And I'm not sure if I will. I think I'm kind of accepted that um, one of two things will happen. I will either get more angry or I'll find out and then just release it. And I think my regret is that I didn't ask her when she was alive. And I think it's also kind of special that she didn't really divulge that to me. Maybe she didn't want me to know. I don't know. But there's also like, there was curiosity around some of my own trauma. I don't remember it, just put that out there. But in my podcast, I do talk about these scars that I have on my arms. And
Yeah.
my adoptive mum took me to the doctor and they were still healing. And my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, had said she's passed, but she had said that the scars were from a tight elastic from a tight dress. And my mum's like, sounds weird. And the doctor said, no, she was tied up. So one of my arms, you can still see the scars, and the other one, it's kind of faded. But I was had questions around that. And we do think that just from who I've spoken to, it looks like it was my grandmother that did it to me. For what reason, I don't know. But when I was talking to my partner about it, like it kind of upset him a bit to think, someone had hurt me. He goes like, really, is it going to benefit you to find out? But there isn't really anyone that's left alive that I can ask. And I don't think that maybe it's that important for me to know, but there was a little bit of curiosity around that stuff. And it's interesting because I spoke to my younger brother's dad, and I just said when they were visiting a few years back up here, I was like, do you know anything about these scars on my arms? And he goes, well, me and Christine went to visit you in foster care and we noticed them. But from what I can understand, must have been at a time that I was with my grandmother. So yeah, that's where we think they've come from. I don't know why. It was interesting because he said to me, I should have really been looking after you. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you were in foster care. And I was like, you were 19 years old. Like, I wasn't even your kid. Like, what? Don't feel bad about that, because he still did play a pivotal role in my life when he was with Christine. And then even after they separated, like he still had, like to this day, he's still in my life because, I've got a relationship with my brother. But I just felt kind of bad for him. I was like, you should never feel bad. Like, I kind of feel like as much impact he's had on my life from being in my life, but he kind of felt guilty about that. But I was actually asking him about that. So yeah, like some of my own trauma, but like I said, I don't remember it. But when I was a child, I had a recurring dream for years that I was tied down on a bed, but I was in a hospital, so it didn't actually make sense because it was around doctors and stuff. And I've also got a picture of me the day I was adopted, and I look super confused. I'm in this like blue and white checkered dress, like I just look really confused, and that's how I looked in the dream, and I was tied down. But the context of the dream doesn't make sense because I obviously wasn't tied down in a hospital, but I always wondered what that meant because I had it for years and years and then it just stopped. But I think the desire to find out why, I'm never going to find out why because she's gone and I never really had much of a relationship with my grandmother. But yeah, it's just, I feel like there's a lot of, like, must have been mental health on her side. I mean, because who does that to a kid?
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer the question, yeah, I think it's going to be a work in progress, working on the resentment, but I definitely feel less resentful than I did before. I'm just like, girlfriend, you got to let some stuff go because it's not going to change. And I'm very aware that, especially I think if I talk to some of my aunties and uncles, because it's their mother that abused my mother, I think they would probably think the audacity of me to even hold resentment because I wasn't around then. I didn't know her. But again, like, I don't think you can have anyone tell you how to feel, especially when it's a loved one, someone that you love deeply. And I think I just hold regret that I didn't ask her questions and find out her story, ask more questions around myself and her when she was alive. But I mean, it's too late now. So,
And that is the thing, though. Like, we're always curious. We're humans. We're curious in nature. That's just who we are. And I like the fact how you, like, we're going to go back to your mum, how she wanted you to be included in your culture and that, and knowing who you are. Like myself with my daughter, she's South African Indian. So I took her to South Africa and I took her to India to get her to know those type of things. And she's Māori, so she's been to New Zealand. She's Pākehā, so she knows that type of thing too. So I understand the concept on that with you and the stepmom or foster care mum wanting to bring you up in that. In regards to, I'm going to touch on tamariki, that one. I'm not going to continue with the name. We had family members that I ended up fostering that were in there. And sometimes you put them with the family, but how did they get there in the first place? So you got to
yeah.
really look at those type of things. Okay, you're going to put them with family and you're going to put them back into it. Isn't that why they're there in the first place? So that's, I'm only going to stop there now because I don't want to go any further because, but
That is a relevant question, though, I guess,
yeah,
it doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's not back
no,
in the day when the state could just uplift kids just because,
yeah,
like, this is this different day and age. So, yeah, I
yeah,
definitely think that's an important thing to remember. I think sometimes we can get so caught up in
yeah.
those things, and then you got to look at the why.
Yeah, and also when people are caring for them, sometimes it's not, there's genuine, don't get me wrong, there's genuine, beautiful people that are amazing foster
Hmm.
carers. And then you got the ones that are just in it for the money.
For
So
sure.
yes, I'm
Mm.
going on touching on those faces. Sorry,
But
I'm
it's
just
true,
being
though.
honest. Yeah, because
It's
like,
true.
oh yeah, look at that. And you're supposed to be getting the money to help raise them and then get them the stuff, but then they might be doing weed, they might be getting drugs. Even though now they say, oh, we're gonna make sure you're not doing this gotta have a room for you, these children, blah, 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 blah. But when they're out of the picture, then they go back to their own habits of getting into those type of drinking or smoking, and it's not a good environment for our children. I know I used
Mm.
to be one of those drunken donkey people that would bleed on my kids because of my own trauma. Now I'm separated and I love them with all my heart. I always annoy them. What you up to? What you doing? And they go, oh, Mum. And but they know unconditional love is all I am about. And even though with our trauma, it doesn't stop us from being ourselves and moving forward. But the curiosity will always be there. And that sometimes can be frightening, scary, maybe more hurtful than anything. And we're thinking, okay, why are we going to go down this path? Because we need to know as humans. And I'm thinking, why do we need to know? Because it's a
Mm.
part of us. Something's tied to us, and we need to cut that tether. We need to cut it, and we don't know how to do it unless we start talking about it until we go, okay, we've had enough, let's cut it. So I'm the type of person, if I don't like something, I just cut it. Family or not, it doesn't matter. If I don't like it, I'll cut it. I'll keep away from the negatives, try and be positive. But sometimes being too positive is also not so good because you're not able to feel the negatives that you need to feel to help grow.
Mm. For sure.
So you know me, I'm very positive in nature, but in saying that, I've also learned that You've got to be aware of your feelings. You've got to be able to check in and say, hey, yeah, you're able to feel like this. You're able to feel pissed off. You're able to do your huckaboogies and whatever. And people forget that. So
Mm,
just remember, don't forget, just keep on doing it. Don't worry about other people thinking or saying, because at the end of the day, they ain't you. They don't
mm.
know what you've been through. They don't know what you're carrying and any of that. I can't wait. When is your podcast? Has your podcast started or is it?
It has started. It's on Podbeam, Bean. So I've got 3 episodes up at the moment, but I'm just trying to get up to at least 5 before I properly start promoting it, I guess. Just so that people have got something to look at or listen to, I should say.
Okay.
Yeah, I was getting all these ideas, and then I was like, "Hang on a minute, you gotta just back it up a bit, and not, run before you can walk, sort of thing." Because you get all these ideas, and you're like, "Oh, I'd love to do this, and I'd love to do that." And I was like, "Let's just get the bare minimum done first, and then we'll go from there."
Look at me, I'm sprinting and I'm crashing everywhere, but I don't care. This is the part of the journey. Like when you see, oh my gosh, what's this lady up to? And then, oh my gosh, she's over there. Oh my gosh, what? That's what I love. People like they try and see, oh, find out something about someone, then you quickly turn somewhere else and go, oh, when did that happen? Yeah. So what I loved about your story is your trueness to yourself, and just holding yourself, moving forward and finding out more about your journey. And it is that your journey is always going to be forever going forward and learning things. I noticed you touched on domestic violence. That's been a big thing in your or
Um,
out of.
it's domestic violence. So I've been a volunteer my entire adult life. I've been a volunteer for victim support twice,
Yeah.
and domestic violence, unfortunately, is at the forefront of the issues that we've dealt with. I've been involved with the YWCA of Whangarei and the YWCA of Queensland. So currently I'm the president of the YWCA of Whangarei, and I'm also on the National Aotearoa board of the YWCA of New Zealand. So that's voice against violence has always been an important thing for us to advocate against, violence. I guess I call it family harm now, whatever, with domestic violence.
Yeah.
I have like a bit of my own journey, but I used to, I shouldn't laugh, but I used to be like, well, it's not that serious because I'm not getting beat into a pulp. Like I didn't really think about the emotional, psychological, and financial stuff, which it can be just as harmful. There was a little bit of physical, but it wasn't a lot. So I think because I was always looking at other wahine or even men that were just getting beaten, I just thought, well, it's really not, there's nothing. Like, and I guess when I was going through it, because I was with my kid's dad for 9.5 years and we were in New Zealand and Australia, but I felt like a hypocrite because at that time I was doing an internship for the YWCA of Queensland, and we were, advocating against it. We had Ada's Haven, which was for survivors of domestic violence, and I was in my own abusive relationship. So I felt really hypocritical in that sense. But yeah, I do have my own story, but mine is really more just being passionate to advocate against it because of the voluntary work I've done, but because I'm so aware of what's happening in this country, Australia. I follow Australia closely too because I lived there for 10 years and their stats are terrible. Like I just remember I was on my way to work in Brisbane CBD for YWCA of Queensland, and I heard that Tara Brown had just passed away.
Yeah.
Now, if you know Tara's story, like most of us know it, but I was really praying, like, I hope she makes it through that. Like at the time, I didn't know how bad it was. Like I'd looked at
Yeah.
Tara's mum's story done recently on Te Hui, the Hui, or whatever it
Yeah.
was. And I was like, oh, it was actually really bad. Like she was never going to come out of it. But we didn't know that at the time. So I was like on my way to work, like, praying that she would live to see justice. And then
Yeah.
I found out at the traffic lights that she'd passed away, and I cried. And I didn't even know her. I know people who knew her, but I didn't
Yeah.
know her personally. But I cried because I was like, oh, I just wanted her to live to see justice. And then I got to work and I was talking to the CEO, and her daughter didn't know, but I just mentioned, Tara Brown's just passed away. So I've always been passionate about it. And I guess when I joined Victim Support the first time, I was only 19. I just graduated from Christchurch Polytechnic of Institute of Technology. I'd done a youth work course, and I was living in the South Island, but I moved back north. And then I was the youth coordinator at YWCA of Whangarei, which I'm now the president on the board for. So I was very young. And then I joined Victim Support, and I was very young. The only reason they accepted me is because I'd done training and voluntary work, because they don't normally accept people that young. But I remember thinking this, and I'm going to be really honest, 19-year-old me was like, why don't they just leave? That was my jaded view of domestic violence. And then I sat in on a victim support training done by a really awesome police officer. I believe she's still doing the work. Her name is Karen Edwards. And she did a session on domestic violence with us. And she said, this is the training I do with my officers, because my officers just go, oh, here we go again. They got, sick of going to the same call outs. And I watched her, and she pretended to be the perpetrator, and she's pushing this guy around, calling him names, like just being really abusive. And she's like, this is what our victims have to put up with day in, day out. And like, it was a lesson to the officers to be more empathetic and just to realize it's not as quickly as just leaving. And there was something called the 12 F's, and I can't remember all of them, but some were like finances, family, fear, fantasy, like all of these reasons why women don't leave. And that really changed my mind. I hadn't then experienced domestic violence, but I was like, man, I was really naive. And then, of course, going through it myself, thinking that I never would, and I did, and then being in another country and not really having anyone around, and then, advocating against it, and I'm in it, you know what I mean? But I never thought it was that serious, because there wasn't a lot of violence, but there was plenty of the other stuff. And it wasn't till I really stepped away from it, and I was like, I think comparison can be a real dangerous thing. Obviously, there's different levels of domestic violence, like you can't deny that. But I think I probably stayed in it for so much longer because I didn't really think I was much of a victim. I thought some people have it so much worse, and I was really minimizing the situation I was in. But now being, older and wiser and all that, hindsight's a great thing. I'm like, the financial stuff, the emotional stuff, and the psychological stuff wasn't okay. Maybe I only got hit here and there, but that was still not okay. I think that's the thing, like we tend to minimize our situations, and I'm not saying like I'm this big martyr to speak out against it. I'm just saying that I advocate against it. So it's really a big topic that I'm passionate about, because it's just an epidemic. And then even in Australia, like, oh my gosh, I know that we're a smaller country compared to Aussie, but the amount of homicide-related deaths, and even what's going on now. So I follow them closely, because they are like, Australia and New Zealand are brother and sister, whether you want to admit it or not. We have this friendly little banter, and we're like, all blacks and blah, blah, blah. But, they are like our sister country. So I still watch closely what's going on in terms of their laws, justice system, like the stories, like, we've heard about Hannah Clark. There's just so many. And, we're so close together. It's like, I know all over the world, like if you look, the domestic violence is everywhere. But I guess if you're just focusing solely on our country, we have a problem here. And we've got this group where I work at my mahi called Haumaru Taiao, and they're like the family violence, family harm team. They got police, victim support, a number of people. And I said to one of the wahine, I was like, look, is the rates of domestic violence getting better or worse? And she goes, honestly, they're getting worse, but it's because of meth. And I was like, okay, so we're really at square one. So the bottom line is we need to be working on this more. And I'm really proud to say that this year, YWCA Whangarei have just adopted a program from Canada called Healthy Relationships. We're already in schools doing money savvy around budgeting and body confidence, which is like the Dove thing. We're about to bring out a Healthy Relationships program, and we've wanted this for years. I say we wanted it for years because the general manager, Carol, who was there when I was 19, I'm now 41, she's still there, 27 years on. And we've always been big about voice against violence. So I'm really, really excited to see this program roll out, because it's the kind of stuff you don't get taught in schools. You don't get taught budgeting and body confidence and healthy relationships. By the time you get there, it's too late, So that's one of the reasons why domestic violence is a topic that I'm passionate about.
Oh, that's bloody awesome. Your story's amazing, honestly. What the hell? What took you so long, lady? Life. Growing. learning. Being
Yeah,
able
learning,
to,
definitely learning.
yeah.
Hey, I think
I'm
we just really underestimate ourselves and what we're capable of. And I was talking to Gail, who I'm currently doing the 12-week program. It's called what is it called? Inner Shift
yeah.
program with her, with these other wahine, and she had a video call with me recently, and she was like, "Okay, talk about the things that are important to you." And she goes, "You know, you really light up when you talk about podcasts." And she was like, "You need to do it." And I was like, "Okay, I was going to do it."
And she's right. No, I better get on there. You sent me I downloaded the Podbean thing, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll get on there, and I haven't. So that's naughty on my side. I want to listen.
That's
Don't
all
worry.
right. I need to catch up on yours too, and I will because I just
No,
love
I
listening to
haven't done
people's stuff.
much either. I stopped for a bit because I was going through life.
Yeah.
Seizures suck.
Yeah.
Mine are a bit different from others, though. Mine's traumatic seizures. So it's all about mental health, and it's Mental Health Week, as you know, Richie is doing with the mental health at I Am Hope. So I just needed to touch base on that because it's all about letting people know where you are, what you are providing, like yourself, your advocate. You also got your podcast. You also, are you still doing Juice Plus?
I am, but I
Yep.
just had to get my mindset back right again because it was a little bit out of sync for the
Yeah.
first half of the year. And I'm finally feeling like me again. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of starting again on that, but I'm okay with it because I'm coming back with experience. So
Yeah. It's much better when you've got that experience behind you. Like me, I was like, what am I doing? I loved the products that I was taking, but then because of my traumatic seizures, it wasn't really uh resonating with me, even though I love the gummies, honestly. Me and my
yeah, me
sister,
too.
she would raid my gummies, and I was like, where's my gummies gone? Oh, sorry, sister, I'm taking them. Ah, pretty egg. But anyway, uh, the journey that you have, and by the sounds of that, there's plenty more of this journey you wish to go on. And is there anything else you would like to talk about and even promote so that
No, I
people?
think that just kind of watch the space so I can, as I start to branch out. I mean, if you want a little bit more insight, definitely find my episodes on Podbean. The first one you want me to look for is Legacy of an Adopted Child. But yeah, I haven't quite promoted yet. I'm just kind of working in the background first and we'll go from there. So that's kind of me at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah, that's awesome. Honestly, like I've been told, just do it. We limit ourselves until we do it. Like, whoa, look at me, bro. Like one book, two book, three book, four
It's
book, and
incredible.
then the other book is now it's in review. It's always about my covers. God dang it. The thing yeah, so anyway, it's all about doing it and loving what you do. If you don't love something, you'll never be able to succeed in it unless it's something you experience and you don't want other people to experience. I experience people hating violence, and that's why I advocate unconditional love.
I love that.
So, and that covers everything. It doesn't like, for me, they said, oh, how can you forgive if you cut people off? And I said, well, I tell them how it is. And if they don't like it, that's on them.
Mhm.
It's about protecting your energy because you've got a lot of mana holding on you to help other people with the advocacy of domestic violence. You're looking after your tinana with Juice Plus, and then your own journey with the adopted part. So, whoop, whoop, let's go, Tony. I'd
I'm
like to,
trying.
that's all we can do. Keep trying and just enjoying life and just learn as we go. I'd like to thank you for hopping on to my podcast. I'm going to be cracking up laughing at this because when I started off, honestly, I just woke up 5 minutes ago. Well, it's been
Commitment
longer
though.
than 5 minutes ago. Like I stayed up late thinking I've got something to do, and I was just I've got something to do, and I went, hey. Then I saw my calendar like you. It's like, oh, that's right. Oh, we got this thing to do. But this is who I am. It's all about being authentic. I'm not a person that has it all together. I just very what do you call organic is the word. Very
That's the
organic.
way to be. It's the way to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, and I think that's why we click, and your partner, that's why we click. We just have fun, enjoy life, and go, let's go, let's just do it. And I'm so proud of where you are from when I first met to you to where you are now. Hell, you definitely glowing lady. Definitely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyway, it's always up to you. Don't let anyone tell you what you should or shouldn't do. Hey.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's us. No longer bottle. I'd like to thank my friend and wish you best of luck for whatever endeavors you wish to be continuing with.
Thank you
And
for having me and for leading the way.
I don't know if I lead, but I'll do my best or just put out the word. We just put out the word and help others because unconditional love is where it's at. Woo, 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 woo. Yeah, I haven't changed, mate. I'm still me. I'm not going to change my. You can't. And having two of me, oh my gosh, no, you can't do that. You take care.
Oh, well, you too.